Have you ever felt stressed and out of options because of an emergency that came up? Today, we're going to look at how you can prepare and protect yourselves from financial disasters. Welcome to the Couple Money Podcast, the show where we share stories and advice on building up your marriage and wealth together. I'm Elle Martinez. Support for this podcast comes from Jumpstart Your Marriage and Your Money Masterclass. This course is designed to help you two get on the same page with money, dump your debt faster, and get you on the path to financial freedom. Sign up for the class today and get lifetime access. Just head over to couplemoney.com/jumpstart. How close are you guys living to the edge? According to some of these headlines, it wouldn't take much for a financial disaster to happen. One survey has only 39% of Americans able to handle a $1,000 emergency, while another says that over 50 million Americans have no emergency savings. While we can't predict and prepare for every possible curveball thrown at us, we can improve our chances of minimizing the damage done with a little bit of work up front. Shannon Harvey is here today to offer up some ways you can be better prepared and avoid financial disasters. He has over 15 years of experience as a trusted risk advisor and owns an insurance agency down in Greenville, South Carolina. In this episode, we get into what financial disasters you need to be on the lookout for, why cheaper is not always better with insurance, and how to prepare your family should the worst happen. When Shannon meets with clients for the first time, he digs into their situation. He wants to know what's going on and where their blind spots are. You might be surprised, though, at how a movie affected him with his approach to looking at risk.
Yeah, a lot of times the first thing we talk about is just them not knowing all of the risks they face. So I ask a lot of questions, get to know them pretty well, and find out a lot about their income, where it comes from. And no matter who I sit down with, generally income goes of one of two directions. It usually goes to support a family or to buy assets. And then we talk about their assets, their cars, their houses, any savings they're working on, any retirement accounts. And we talk about how to protect that. And a story I often tell, it's kind of like I remember seeing the movie Star Wars for the first time when I was a kid. And this is gonna age me a little bit. Part of the movie that really stood out was when there's a guy in the first one named General Tarkin, and he was in charge of Darth Vader, and they had built this, super death. It was the Death Star. It was the biggest weapon of mass destruction you can imagine, and they forced Princess Leia to watch as they blew up her home planet.
Yes.
And I remember seeing that movie, and I remember, frantically crawling onto my dad's lap, asking if that was real. And he had to point out that it was not. It was all done with models. And anyway, I asked if there was something that could blow up our world, and he said no. And unfortunately, now that I'm in my 40s, I have a wife and two kids of my own. And I realized that he wasn't exactly right, because a lot of people's world is their financial world. And there's not just one Death Star floating around out there. I call them disaster stars because it can lead to a financial disaster. Yeah. There's 7 of them, and they can attack all at once, or they can just attack one at a time. And if they do, if you haven't properly built a wall around your financial world for those things to bounce off, it can be terrible, and it can be heartbreaking. And I've seen a lot of folks negatively impacted, that it could have easily been prevented had just a little bit of planning been put in place.
In his practice and working with couples and families, Shannon has seen that there are certain areas to look out for to make sure you're minimizing the risk.
I've been helping people with their banking, their investments, their mortgages, and their insurance, and I've been doing that for over 15 years. And what I've learned in all that time is that everything really ties together. So no matter which of those areas we're discussing, what a lot of folks don't realize when I sit down with them, they don't realize that it all ties together and it's all at risk. So if they're not managing their daily risk, and it's everyday risks that each of us are facing, it doesn't matter your age, your ethnicity, your gender, your occupation, we're all facing what I call 7 of the biggest daily risks that can really lead to a financial disaster.
Yeah.
And a financial disaster can be one of a number of things. It could be, if you imagine, losing all of your savings, losing any home equity you may have built up if you're a homeowner, or even worse, losing your home, losing your income for 6 months or longer, or getting sued for $1 million. A lot of people I sit down with, they don't realize you don't have to be a millionaire to get sued like one. So those are a lot of the things that we usually talk about.
One area to review is your insurance. We're all looking for the best deal on our policies, but you don't want to be caught with inadequate coverage. One accident with car insurance, for example, can ruin your finances.
I think a good question to start with is if they do something that a lot of us do, if they drive a car, they should ask if they have the right liability limits. Unfortunately, nowadays, because of competition and every time you turn on the television or the radio, or you're looking on the internet and the little ads pop up, it seems to carry the same message from the insurance companies, which is for a few minutes, I can save you money on your auto insurance. And that's not a good message, in my opinion, because we often try to save money, and it's not always the right thing to do if you're stepping over $1 to pick up a nickel. And if you have liability limits that are real low on your auto insurance and you cause the wrong accident, then you're at risk of being sued for $1 million or being sued for someone's injuries. I'll tell you a quick story. One of my friends who's a customer, he was visiting a coworker one weekend, and today we have blue skies. It's a pretty day. It was just like today. It wasn't raining. It wasn't dark. He was visiting this person on a nice day over the weekend, and he was leaving their neighborhood. He looks right, then he looks left. Everything looks good. And when he pulls out, a car zips around the corner and T-bones him, knocks him into the other lane of traffic. He hits a couple of other cars. Now, fortunately, he walked away with just a broken collarbone. But long story short, $600,000 later, the last medical bill was paid for the other people he had injured and was liable for. And so luckily for him, we had recommended he have an umbrella policy in place. And an umbrella policy gave him an extra $1 million in liability protection on top of his auto policy. Thanks to that policy, there was no financial impact for him. Otherwise, if he didn't plan properly, he would have spent a lot of money out of his savings, probably tapped into the equity in his home, tapped into his retirement account. It can be awful. It could declare bankruptcy. And in most states, you can have your wages garnished. So you can end up working the majority of your career to pay off the wrong accident if you have low liability limits.
If you haven't already, make sure you review all your insurance policies. With your car insurance, if you are responsible for an accident, are you too prepared to take care of it financially? Another insurance policy you want to make sure you're on top of is life insurance. Now, I know last week we got into preparing wills and getting those ready ahead of time, but there's another piece to the puzzle. Shannon has a great way for the two of you to get on the same page should the worst happen.
Most people have a smartphone, and I think we take them for granted for certain, but one little trick I learned about mine probably 10 years ago now. My wife and I, we have a funny phrase for if, the worst happened and, I go sooner than I'm supposed to go. We'd call that getting hit by the beer truck. And it started out as, when she had our two kids in diapers and I'm trying to help one morning before getting out the door, she tells me, I often would say my life insurance is in place in case I get hit by the beer truck. And then she just, made an offhand comment. Well, you better hope I don't get hit by the beer truck because you don't know about any of this that's going on. And one thing we started doing was I sent her an email, and I use my iPhone. I have that little notes app that always comes on my iPhone. And I created a note, and the note subject is if I get hit by the beer truck. And it basically tells her, these are where my life insurance policies are. This is where some of the other accounts are that you might not think of very frequently. I have my business loans here, so you would contact this banker, and I have this life insurance policy that pays off any loans associated with my business. And if you need to sell my business, this is an advisor I recommend you get in touch with. All of that I've put in the notes section, and I save it. And then I email it to her each year, the beginning of each year, and we call it my beer truck email. And it may sound goofy, but she's told me time and again that it makes her feel better knowing where everything is. Because sometimes I've had customers, something happens to them and a relative comes in and they ask, did he have a life insurance policy with you? And they don't know where everything is. And that's a big problem. So one thing I wanted this email from my wife to do is, I know that Susan knows where everything is. God forbid something should happen to me and she has to deal with everything. It's in that email every year. And then once the next year rolls around, I just go into the notes section and I update a few figures, balances, whatever that situation is. And then I send her the email again. And I know she likes it because she talks about it sometimes when we go out to dinner with people and she laughs about it. But she also says it makes her feel good and it gives her peace of mind.
I was looking into how other people handle this situation, and some people call their binder the ice binder in case of emergencies. Whatever you guys decide to call it, have something in place that's easy and accessible. I know sometimes it can seem overwhelming to get everything in place, but you don't have to do it all at once. Step by step, you too can be better prepared for emergencies and avoid or at least minimize financial disasters.
And to follow up on the planning, it doesn't take a lot of money to build that wall. You might not build it all at once. It might take a little bit of time, but you can build it where if something comes up, like, you lose a job or you're injured and you can't work and generate an income, or, God forbid someone dies sooner than expected and leaves behind a spouse and a mortgage and a family. It doesn't have to be a financial disaster. And just a little bit of planning with the right risk advisor can prevent all that.
Special thanks to Shannon for being a part of this show. If you guys want to learn more and be better prepared, go ahead and grab Shannon's book, Avoid Financial Disaster. Or if you want to work with him and get other resources and tools to help you minimize financial disasters, I have everything in the show notes over at Couple Money. And if you want to stay on top of the podcast, videos, articles, make sure you're subscribed to the community. I send out weekly updates with everything we release, as well as some behind-the-scenes stuff and exclusive things. Plus, it's free. Just head over to couplemoney.com/join. Our theme song was written and performed by Gentle Regime. Additional music by Lee Rosevear and Music for Makers. Finally, and most importantly, thank you guys for your support. The reviews are so kind. I appreciate it. And thank you for sharing these episodes. If you think this episode can help another couple out, could you please spread the word? I'd love for couples to be better prepared for emergencies. I hope you have a great week. Take care.